Oh,
Okay,
okay.
Hare Krishna, how are you?
Hare Krishna. Am I
Yeah,
going to start saying Hare Krishna every time? Maybe I'll start saying
maybe.
it to everybody.
It's
Anyway,
a
nice
it's
to
an
meet
easy
you,
way
Derek.
to, yeah, it's like aloha, you just say it whenever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so welcome everybody to the Unborn Podcast. I guess that's the official name of this meeting. Catherine and I are both very enthusiastic about the Bhagavad Gita. I approached Catherine and said, let's have some chats every so often about the Gita and record them and post
hmm
them on Catherine's beautiful and thriving channel. So that's what we're doing. So this is just a little introduction of the two of us so that we don't have to do that every time we have a podcast. So, and Catherine asked me to go first, so I will.
Okay.
My name is Jagai Das or Derek Stock. I was a kind of a wild youth, and somehow or another, when I was 18 years old, I'm now 57. I joined the Hare Krishna temple in Los Angeles, lived in the ashram as a celibate monk for about 7 or 8 years. And during that time was a very intensive study of the Vedic teachings, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Upanishads, Samhitas, and such. And I studied under a guru, and I had a very eccentric Sanskrit teacher who I adore, who passed away. And that time in my life was intensive study. As I've told Catherine in the past, there were no, as I told Catherine, there was no screens, there was no videos, there was no TVs. We didn't listen to the radio, we didn't have music. We lived very simply. I had two, three changes of clothes and my books. And the culture of the brahmacharis was such that they were very intensive, young, intensive guys, all celibate and full of testosterone. And we would have Bhagavad Gita debates. And if you're giving a class or you're speaking something and you quote the Gita, if you say, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, da, 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 you would have to quote the Sanskrit. You have to. And if you didn't, then people would say, oh, you're speculating, you don't know. So I probably studied hundreds of verses. Probably memorized something close to that. And over the years, I also took the Bhakti Shastri. I have a Bhakti Shastri certificate, which is a course which takes about a year where you study Gita, Shushapanishad, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and Nectar of Instruction, which is called the Shikshamrita. And then you get kind of like a unofficial certificate of completion. And that has taken me up to recently where, and I'll put my links in the TikToks, where in the past few years, I've been pretty regular at posting on TikTok. How and why, I don't know how I even got into that, but sometimes it's pretty active. And I would like to put this together mostly because I feel that our current world does not spend enough time, or almost any time, really reading books, like books, and halves the attention span. And I hope that if you and I, Catherine and I, have put out some enthusiasm and
hmm
some interesting pieces and nuggets of the Gita and other things that will encourage people to pick up the Gita and other philosophies of the East and dig in. And I think we are non-denominational enough, even though
hmm
you come from Swami Sham and I come from Hare
hmm
Krishna, that
hmm
there's enough openness that it makes no difference what
Yeah.
Gita, what you're reading, as long as you
Yeah.
get into the Gita. Now
Totally. Totally.
that's me. Pretty simple. What about you, my friend?
Good. Okay. So I had my first Sanskrit lesson at the age of 4. My parents met in an organization in London which was interested in this Vedanta philosophy. And so I was introduced to the Gita too. Probably like 8 or 9 or something. And I was a terrible Sanskrit student, a terrible Gita student. I was basically spent my life in that school saying, why are we learning this? Why aren't we doing French? and I left that school at 13, wanting to get free. It was pretty overly disciplinarian. But I was aware when I left that there was some kind of essential knowledge in the heart of it that was important. I kind of knew it was, but I wanted to try and find it for myself in some other direction.
Mm.
And I ended up studying social anthropology. I was like trying to find, there must be some kind of society in the world where people have freedom and where they have oneness. So somehow the word oneness really was resonating in me.
Mm.
And I was kind of looking for that. And all the books I read in that time, I remember I'd kind of underline things and write down quotes. And way later, way after I'd met Swamiji and everything, I found that book again and realized that it was all pointing in this direction, but
Oh,
just
cool.
kind of without my really realizing that's what I was doing. Anyway, my sister luckily ended up I'm not in India at the moment, going to India and finding a teacher called Swami Sham.
Mm.
And a couple of years after she got there, I visited her, and he very, very soon became my teacher too, my guru. And I would say that that meeting with him just profoundly shifted everything for me. And
Mm.
it was like everything that I'd heard as words while I was at my primary school, but it had seemed ideas of something that was some kind of distant, far away kind of thing. Somehow I realized it was me, me, absolutely me, what I actually was. And so it was like my head kind of got blown off, really. And I saw that this was what my life was about. It just was very quick, the realization, okay, this is what I'm doing now. So the rest of that was in the mid 90s, that I was 20, in my, how old, 24. And the rest of my time between there and now has been either the first kind of 10 years or so, I was spending sometimes like a year there and then coming back to the UK and earning money and stuff. And then in the ashram there, sorry, I should have really explained. My teacher is Swami Sharma, and he has an ashram in the Himalayas in India. And so then I would spend a lot of time there, come back and do that. I did that for a while, and then I ended up living there with my partner John T. We stayed there for, I think, 12 years straight of just, this is it, this is where we're living now, this is what we're doing. And yeah, just became deeply this teaching, this reality, really. I don't even really think of it as a teaching. I think of it as a description of the reality that we are. I became deeply steeped in it, I suppose. And one thing particularly about the Bhagavad Gita was that I was always actually kind of more drawn to those kind of scriptures that are beyond, so subtle, and just taking you beyond time and space, beyond the mind, the kind of the essence of the Upanishads kind of thing. And then at a certain stage, I asked Swamiji a question. It was about my mind and my mind kind of focusing on my health and on symptoms with a kind of anxiety. And basically I said to him, what should I do? Because I know that my mind doing that isn't helpful to my health or to anything. And yet it feels like just working on the level of changing thoughts doesn't feel like deep enough for what we're really doing here, which is kind of beyond the level of thoughts.
Mhm.
And his answer to me, and it was a very unusual answer. This isn't something that he told lots of people there. I don't know anyone he told to do this. He told me to read the Gita, the Bhagavad Gita, out loud 100 times.
Oh,
And so he said, and there was a beautiful, he wrote me a letter about it actually. And in the letter, it was a beautiful line. He said, then the knowledge of your mind and the knowledge of your tongue and the knowledge of the self will all be in harmony with one another.
oh, nice.
And I thought it was like I was really, when he said it, um, it was, it was perfect. And it really put me on a kind of path of reading out loud, kind of getting my voice out, speaking more.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow it started becoming easier just to speak satsang generally.
Mm.
And um, and it's interesting, I realize kind of in retrospect, the Bhagavad Gita is such a kind of powerful combination of that most esoteric knowledge that which I was kind of very drawn to, but also has a very kind of galvanizing energy with
Uh-huh.
which you can face the world and with which
Uh-huh.
you can face your mind and with which you can live that knowledge, not just,
Uh-huh.
as somebody victorious rather than someone who's kind of
Uh-huh.
cowed under the world and trying to
Hmm.
hide from it or something. So I would say I am still in the process of those hundreds. I'm on 50 something. My teacher himself had done several beautiful translations, which I started off, reading all of his a lot. And then more recently, Jonty does this with me too, and we read all sorts of different translations. I haven't yet read the one that you're most familiar with, Jagai, but
Uh-huh.
I'll get to that one because I have many to go. So at the moment, I'm reading the Yogananda version, which is so long. I think it's like the equivalent of about 10. It's like the commentary on that is so long. It's
Uh-huh.
interesting, but anyway, that's it. That's how I came to do this and how I came to love it. And I really fell in love with it. Kind of, I realized there's so much in it. Every time I read it, there's more. It's kind
Yeah.
of a mine of wealth of just all good things. So
Very
it's
nice.
great. When you contacted me, it was an easy choice to say, yep, that sounds good.
Yeah. Sit around and talk about the Gita. And
Yeah.
you have um you you have some courses and you do a
Yes,
little bit
I
of
have
meditating.
a YouTube channel called Unchanging Being Yoga Philosophy for Freedom, just Unchanging Being. I'm sure you'd find it.
Well,
And
this would be on it, right? This will
this
be.
will be well, exactly. So people will have found it, won't they, if they're
Yeah.
watching this? But they might also watch this on your TikTok, right? Or
Yeah.
listen to
Uh-huh.
it on a podcast thing,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
And also, I have a website, unchangingbeing.com. And yeah, I teach online and I lead satsang and I teach the Bhagavad Gita as well. Yeah.
Nice. And what encouraged you to do that? Because it's your thing is nice. It's like well organized. You thought through this.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's well organized, kind of, but it's kind of grown over time. But basically, when in 2019, when Jonty and I decided to move back to the UK, my father's now he just turned 90, so he was, mid 80s, and he was needing more support than he had. And my teacher himself, Swami Sham, he left his body in 2017. So I just kind of knew it was time to move. And at that stage, actually, somebody who I know who had visited the ashram for kind of shorter periods but lived in the UK, asked me if I would teach her the Gita because she knew I'd read it so many times. So I
Uh-huh.
started off really literally just teaching her and her friend.
Oh.
And and then I kind of like 2020, I kind of thought actually, because I was teaching English to earn money online, and actually I thought I like this. I like talking about the Gita so much more than I like teaching English.
Uh-huh.
Maybe I should try and do this more, and that's kind of what's happened, and it's grown.
Nice.
Yeah,
How cool. Very cool. Very cool.
yeah.
Okay, well, that's That's who we are, and that's what this very short little
Mhm.
post is about. I don't know in what regularity we'll do podcasts, but it could be once a week, it could be twice a
Mhm.
month, it could be once a month. We
Mhm.
just
Mhm.
when we get them done, we'll post them up
Yep,
there, and that'll be that.
nice. And also, I think, don't you I reckon that if people have questions about the Gita that they want to ask, then definitely feel free to post them under this video, or
Oh yeah, yeah.
well, either of us contact you on TikTok or whatever, because I'd be quite open to kind of taking people's questions and talking about it in that way too.
Yes, yes. All questions. Put them in the comments,
Yeah,
and maybe we'll make just a video over your question.
yeah.
Who knows? There's no hard
Mhm.
format here. Okay,
Okay,
good.
great. So
Okay.
that's it. This is our introduction, and we're
Yeah.
looking forward to chatting Bhagavad Gita.
Haribo. Okay. Wonderful.